Boy, I'm going to probably live to regret this, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. I'm going to say the thing that all of y'all are thinking, if you're being honest with yourself. Zack Snyder's a bit overrated. We get excited when he produces something. We being a certain segment of the nerd population. We do, right? When Army of the Dead was announced, we were getting excited. When the rated R Star Wars that was rejected by Disney was announced to be put on Netflix, we got excited. Of course, we got excited by Superman versus Batman because it's Superman versus Batman. But didn't we know better because of Man of Steel? I mean, we were kind of kidding ourselves after seeing Man of Steel by saying, no, this is going to be where this is going to be where he redeems. But we were warned and we doubled down. So my criticism of Zack Snyder, I'm going to draw a parallel to the most logical thing ever, and that is a Jay-Z song, because that makes all the sense in the world. All right. So how many of you guys have heard that Jay-Z song, The Takeover? It's one of his diss tracks on Nas when those two were beefing. And he does like this weird thing towards the end of the song. Now, I compared it to The Takeover, Jay-Z's diss track, and Nas's diss track, The Ether. Both of them are fire, but I kind of like Jay-Z's a little more, maybe a hot take. But the weird thing he does, Jay-Z, towards the end of the song is he literally mathematically proves, or at least attempts to mathematically prove, why Nas is not that great. And he says, here are the albums you produce. Nas being an undeniably great MC. Illmatic is an amazing album. He had acknowledged that. But then he's like, yeah, man, but you hardly produce anything, and what you do produce is garbage. So what I want you to do is go through Zack Snyder's work and see how much of it was really hot. Now, good Lord. Dawn of the Dead, which is, I think, Zack Snyder's first full-length film, was great. But it's not really a Zack Snyder movie. It doesn't have the trappings of a Zack Snyder movie, per se. There's not the slow motion and all that. I mean, the beginning, there's scenes where they're using kind of slow motion, but it's not implemented. It's not the over-the-top characters, the action. I mean, Ving Rhames was badass. I mean, he's over the top in everything he's in a good way. But, I mean, that's not what I'm talking about. So the first real Zack Snyder movie was 300. And I'm going to say 300 doesn't necessarily age that well, but that's not on Zack Snyder. That's more the source material, the Western chauvinism, the racism, the just homophobia, casual homophobia. But hey, that's the source material, ableism, whatever, right? So go through his movies and ask yourself, how often were you excited to see a Zack Snyder movie? And how often were you disappointed? How often were you excited to see a Zack Snyder movie for two reasons? Not just because of what that movie was, because we were all excited to see a Justice League movie, but because you got excited when you found out that it was going to be Zack Snyder making the movie. We've convinced ourselves that Zack Snyder is better at what he does than what he really is, better at what he does than he is. You get what I'm trying to say. I mean, think about it. Watchmen. He misses the mark on things. Is Watchmen good? I think Watchmen is good. Probably Watchmen. You guys know what I mean. I think it's good, but it definitely could have been better. And one of the things that could have been better is if Zack Snyder didn't do the thing he does with a lot of movies where he just doesn't get the material. Now, here's the thing. A director can have their own vision on things. If you talk about Batman, for example, there's all types of interpretations of Batman. There's the 60s Adam West campy. There's the detective Batman from the animated series. And honestly, the Batman that came out recently is kind of more of the detective Batman. There's the 1989 Tim Burton, Michael Keaton Batman. All of these are legit Batmans, right? So he does his twist on Batman, but there's like certain things he just doesn't. Batman shooting people, and when asked about that, Zack Snyder's basically, man, I don't give a shit. It looks cool, him shooting people. Batman don't shoot people. I know this is a thing. I'm not going to get into that over and over. I'm not going to rehash the whole Batman doesn't kill thing. That's getting old. But even Superman, like we saw Man of Steel, and it's so freaking gloomy. Superman, the man of tomorrow, who we all aspire to be. Do we all aspire to be on antidepressants? Holy crap, that movie is so freaking depressing. And then Batman versus Superman. Look, there's literally hundreds of videos talking about these things. I'm not going to rehash them, but Batman going to do enough pull-ups to fight a sun god, essentially. Okay, sure, right? So then we find out Army of the Dead is going to be dropped. We get excited by that. Not a bad movie, but kind of disappointing. But maybe it's just the sheen of Zack Snyder, man. We just, we even like Zack Snyder for the movies he didn't make, right? People were sitting there clamoring for the Zack Snyder cut. Guys, there was no Zack Snyder cut of the Justice League movie. Warner Brothers gave him something like between $20 or $50 million to re-edit and reshoot things. Was the quote-unquote Zack Snyder cut better? Yes. What he did with the DC universe, he put a unique look and vision and characterization that really made it distinguish it from Marvel well. So the guy is great at cinematography. He's good at storyboarding. He's good at the basic ideas. But when it comes from going to a storyboard to actually implementing the story, he's not that good. He's not a good storyteller. And what's bringing us out? Well, we were getting the rated R Star Wars movie. And the idea was we're not, he had his idea for a rated R Star Wars movie or movie in the Star Wars universe, and Disney Studios didn't want to do that. Right? It's a precious property, I understand, but if you're going to come up with a rated R Star Wars story, man, you better come correct with it. I think right now the first Rebel Moon that produced on Netflix, where they definitely gave them money. They definitely gave them the means to make a good movie. I think it's 22% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it's not good. I've seen that. And the second one, which just dropped, is 18% on Rotten Tomatoes. Not saying that the critics are the end-all, be-all of what makes a good movie, but we get so excited by this guy, and the question is why. Here's who Zack Snyder kind of reminds me of. Tarsem Singh, right? I don't know if you guys remember. Probably Tarsem Singh's biggest movie. It's probably he did the Mirror movie, which I think did pretty well. I've never seen that, but the movies I did see, The Cell and Immortals, or The Immortals at Sea, one of those Greek god movies, came out in the I think the early 2000s. When did that movie come out? I'm looking now because I'm impressed. 2011, right? So visually, The Cell, another movie he did called The Fall, Immortals, the man Tarsem Singh, great visuals, just like Zack Snyder. Matter of fact, when you look at their collection of work, they've done videos, music videos, they've done commercials, because what they bring to these things is unique. Their cinematography teams, how they're able to put, they make visually stunning movies. But Tarsem Singh was always a little disappointing to me. Now, so that's kind of what Zack Snyder. Visually, a Zack Snyder movie when you see it, with exception of maybe Owls of Gahul, which is the animated movie, which I didn't think was that bad. I saw it in the movie theater, actually. I think it had slow motion. Zack Snyder put slow motion in an animated movie. It's been well over a decade. When that movie came out, when did Owls of Gahul come out? I'm looking right now because I'm a professional, guys. It came out in 2010. Yeah, it came out a decade and a half ago. And so I'm not quite sure, but I'm pretty sure there's slow motion in that movie because it's Zack Snyder. All right. So visually great movies, but they just don't stick the landing for different reasons. I don't think Zack Snyder sticks the landing because he doesn't get the properties. He doesn't get the elements of the story which make the story what it is. I'll give you another example. Watchmen, right? Now, the Watchmen movie, for the most part, I like it, but here's an important thing. Spoiler. The original Owl in the Watchmen, who is basically the Batman of that world, he is killed by a violent gang. And in the movie, he goes out like a G. This old man is throwing hands, showing that old man strength. But in the comic book, it's sad and it's pathetic. And that's kind of the point. But Zack Snyder can't get beyond cool. He's like, I'm going to have this in here because it looks cool. I'm going to have Batman shooting people with big ass guns because it looks cool. I'm going to have sad emo Superman because it's kind of, I don't know why he has sad emo Superman. Yeah, I don't know why. That's the man of tomorrow. We're striving to be him. We're striving to be on Prozac. I don't even know if people still use Prozac. Anyway, I say these things, by the way. I like Tarsem Singh and I like Zack Snyder. And you pop in some of their work and I haven't, especially if I haven't seen it, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to, but I'm sick of going to the movie theater, sitting down to see Sucker Punch. Something that I should really be excited about. I mean, it's got like hot girls in schoolgirl outfits with katana blades fighting robots and zombie Nazis or something like that. Why did I not like that movie? I don't know. And even after I've had people explain to me what it is, what it's about, I'm like, okay. And I still it doesn't change the fact that I fell asleep in this movie. I fell asleep in Sucker Punch. Like, it's like Emily Browning wearing like a skirt. Jenna Malone. If Jenna Malone's in front of me, what's her name, Carla Gianni, I'm like, why am I going this? Because it's boring. So maybe I'm just saying these things because maybe it's tough love and they'll step up their game. Because I know they're going to watch this video. They're going to watch this video and they'll be like, you know what? We can definitely do better.